What if your morning coffee that you thought you could trust is secretly destroying your health? Alarming new studies reveal that about 1 in 3 coffees sold in the UK today aren't pure coffee at all. They're contaminated with heavy metals, chemicals, fillers, and hidden additives that never make it onto the label. So which brands are the worst offenders? In this video, we are going to reveal 7 names that will completely change the way you see your cup of coffee. Nescafe Original is the UK's single most popular instant coffee brand. Walk into any supermarket, corner shop or office kitchen and you'll find the red jar on the shelf. But behind its dominance are findings that raise serious concerns. Independent testing in the UK and abroad has linked Nescafe's supply chain to pesticide residues in finished coffee. Investigations by consumer councils in Europe and Asia have found traces of chemicals such as chlorpyrifos and glyphosate in instant coffee products, including mainstream brands like Nescafe. Chlorpyrifos is particularly worrying. It is banned for food use in the EU because of its effects on child brain development, yet residues continue to be reported in imports from producing countries. Nescafe has also been linked to controversies in its bean sourcing. Journalists have repeatedly pointed out gaps in Nestlé's transparency, especially in West African and Latin American supply chains, where smallholders often rely heavily on agrochemicals. The combination of pesticide residues, elevated acrylamide, and limited transparency makes Nescafe's dominance a double-edged sword. For a brand consumed by millions every morning, this means Britain's most popular coffee may also be one of its most contaminated. Starbucks markets itself in the UK as a more premium coffee experience, but independent studies show its products may contain elevated levels of acrylamide compared to smaller roasters. The company was even forced to post cancer warning labels on its coffee in California under Proposition 65, after a court found that consumers had the right to be informed about acrylamide levels. While that ruling applied in the US, it raises questions for UK consumers. Acrylamide levels are not disclosed on labels here, and watchdog groups have noted that Starbucks uses dark roast profiles that generate higher acrylamide than lighter, carefully roasted beans. There are also concerns about furans in Starbucks instant products, such as Via. Because these are prepared in a similar way to other instant coffees, they can trap more furans in the final powder. Furans are volatile, toxic compounds linked to liver damage, and unlike in brewed coffee, they don't simply evaporate when the cup is made. The brand's clean image hides the reality that Starbucks relies on the same high-temperature roasting and large-scale processing as other mass producers. Its global scale means it cannot prioritize careful, low-contaminant methods without massively increasing costs. For UK consumers, the premium price tag does not guarantee a safer cup. Tesco's everyday value instant coffee may look like the cheapest pick-me-up on the supermarket shelf, but behind that bargain price is a brewing problem most shoppers have no idea about. UK watchdog surveys have repeatedly found that instant coffee shows the very highest levels of acrylamide, and Tesco's budget line sits right in that firing line. Acrylamide is not an added ingredient, it's a contaminant created when beans are roasted hard and fast. The Food Standards Agency is blunt. Exposure should be kept as low as reasonably achievable because this chemical is linked to cancer in long-term studies. Independent lab testing overseas has confirmed the same pattern. Instant coffee powders retain more acrylamide than other types. It doesn't end there. The roasting and drying process used in bulk value coffees like Tesco's locks in dangerous furans and 2-methylfuran, volatile compounds tied to liver toxicity. In regular brewed coffee, steam carries much of this away, but when Tesco's powder is sealed up in a jar, these chemicals can stay right there waiting for your kettle. Then comes the mold toxin risk. The EU sets maximum limits for ochratoxin A in instant coffee at 10 nanograms per gram. That rule exists because cheap beans stored in giant warehouses are prone to contamination. Over the years, multiple coffees have triggered European food safety alerts for breaching the limit, and Tesco's instant coffee is a risky, vulnerable type. And if you thought the dangers stopped there, peer-reviewed studies worldwide have detected lead and cadmium residues in some supermarket instant coffees. These heavy metals accumulate slowly in the body, affecting kidneys, nerves, and even fetal development. Tesco's everyday value sourcing model makes it a prime suspect for the cheapest beans, the lowest oversight, and the greatest risk. So while Tesco labels it as everyday value, the truth is the value may be an illusion. Each spoonful could be carrying contaminants that regulators openly warn should be reduced wherever possible. The price is low, but ask yourself, is this really the corner of the supermarket where you want to save? Walk into a Costa and it feels safe. The warm red logo, the smell of roasted beans, the familiar paper cup. It's comfort sold for £3 a pop. But peel back the lid and you'll find one of Britain's most beloved coffee chains tied to some of the most disturbing failures in UK food safety. A BBC watchdog investigation tested ice in Costa stores across the UK. The result? 7 out of 10 samples contained fecal coliform bacteria, the same bacteria found in human waste. Imagine paying for a caramel latte only to drink something laced with the same microbes flushed down toilets. And then there's the tragedy no PR campaign can wash away. A 13-year-old girl died after being served dairy milk in her hot chocolate instead of the dairy-free version she asked for. Costa staff admitted under oath they didn't even understand the word allergen. Parents trust high street giants to keep their kids safe. But here, a simple cup of hot chocolate became a fatal mistake. Studies of global coffee supply chains have found residues of pesticides, acrylamide, heavy metals, phthalates, and even mold toxins. Discount chains Aldi and Lidl have built their reputations on offering no-frills products at rock-bottom prices. Their instant coffees are among the cheapest in Britain, often undercutting even Tesco's value line. But testing in Europe has raised troubling questions about what's really inside those jars. One of the biggest concerns is ochratoxin A, OTA, a mycotoxin formed by mold that grows on coffee beans when they're stored in damp or poorly ventilated conditions. OTA is classified as a possible human carcinogen and has been linked to kidney damage and immune suppression. That is why the European Union enforces a strict maximum level of 10 nanograms per gram in instant coffee. Over the years, EU rapid alert notifications have flagged multiple instant coffee products across Europe, including budget supermarket lines, for breaching these limits. Aldi and Lidl UK, their supply chains rely on the same bulk commodity beans from regions where OTA contamination is common. Independent watchdogs note that low-cost private label products are precisely where these risks concentrate because suppliers compete on price rather than rigorous quality control. Unlike premium brands that sometimes disclose sourcing regions or certifications, Aldi and Lidl provide minimal transparency on their instant coffee labels. The jars rarely mention where the beans were grown, how they were processed, or what safeguards are in place. For consumers, that opacity leaves only trust in the supermarket's assurance that the coffee is safe. But history shows that OTA problems emerge most often in the exact type of low-cost, mass-imported products Aldi and Lidl specialise in. The bottom line? These budget brands may save £1 or £2 per jar, but the risk is that you're drinking coffee harvested, stored and processed under conditions more likely to foster fungal toxins, compounds that regulators consider serious enough to set legal maximums. Kenco Millicano marketed itself as a breakthrough in instant coffee, the UK's first whole bean instant, combining instant granules with finely ground roasted beans. The Advertising Standards Authority, ASA, forced Kenco to withdraw misleading adverts after complaints that Millicano was not, in fact, made entirely from whole beans. In reality, the product was still largely conventional instant coffee, with only a small proportion of ground beans mixed in. Critics accused Kenco of using the whole bean label as a marketing gimmick to justify a higher price point. This raised a broader issue: transparency in labeling. While consumers believed they were paying for a more authentic coffee, they were effectively buying a dressed-up instant with fillers. Trade publications and consumer groups noted that Kenco's approach blurred the line between genuine roasted and ground coffee and the cheaper, more processed instant category. On the health front, Millicano is still subject to the same risks as other instant coffees: elevated acrylamide, retained furans, and potential ochratoxin contamination. In fact, the addition of micro-ground beans may increase acrylamide content, since darker roasted particles remain in the mix. Italian brands like Lavazza dominate the premium supermarket segment in the UK. Their packaging emphasizes heritage, espresso culture, and quality. But independent investigations have repeatedly shown that the story is not so simple. While marketed as premium, supermarket Italian blends often contain a significant proportion of Robusta beans, which are cheaper, higher in caffeine, and more bitter. Industry insiders report that fillers, such as husks and broken beans, are often blended into mass-market products, despite the 100% coffee claim on labels. From a contamination perspective, Lavazza is not immune. EU Rapid Alert System data has flagged ochratoxin issues in Italian roasters in the past. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more content like this.